pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public expression. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. This portion of the meeting during which oral public comment is held shall be limited to 20 minutes. Comments that involve personnel or students must be discussed in private and will be limited to 3 minutes. Please keep comments appropriate and respectful. Anyone want to speak? The next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project and preliminary hearing on the proposed project. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet at the back of the room, which should include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic is limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required. The first preliminary determination hearing was held on February 10, 2026. At this time, I will ask that the superintendent explain the purpose of this hearing.
So pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may enter into more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of the potential value of this project to the school corporation and community are given. Similarly, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-20-3.1, school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution to preliminarily determine to issue bonds or enter a lease for a project which has a total project cost in excess of a non-controlled project. So these public hearings and the adoption of resolutions are the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish a maximum financial term for the proposed project.
We will now hear from the superintendent about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for the project.
Yeah, and our friend Luke from Stiefel Public Finance is here with us again this evening, but although not required by statute, we are going to ask Luke from Stiefel to present with us. And the proposed projects that would fall under this bond are things that we can't support in the operations fund, like purchase of school buses, like on the agenda later today is upgrading the lighting on the football field because it's obsolete and we can't have it repaired or fixed anymore. Things like that. Other maintenance repairs around the building. Ton and Blank did a facility assessment for us, so we have an idea of what our needs are, moving into the future, and we just want to make sure that we can continue to maintain the building properly, and this will assist with that. So I'll turn it over to Luke and put his slides up on the screen for him.
These slides should look pretty familiar, as they're the exact same slides as last month. Please stop me at any point though if you'll have questions. So the first thing we start with is your current debt service levy. That's really just a function of your debt service payments, factoring in some miscellaneous revenue and the cash that you have in that debt service fund. So you'll see from 26 to 27 you have a drop off in your levy, meaning that if we closed on a bond issue this year, it would hit your levy beginning in 2027. So our goal would be to fill that gap in essentially. And you can see on the next slide, we'll accomplish that. For this $995,000 GO, we really have 2 goals in mind. One, to make sure we're doing it without increasing the debt service levy or the taxes there, but then also leaving capacity for future projects. So you'll see in 2029, we have that same dip to allow for any additional future needs that you may have at that time or whatever the board decides to do at that time, but it would give you some capacity beginning in that 2029 levy. The last slide here is the maximum parameters. The only difference between the first meeting and this meeting is that these numbers are now going to be set forth in the resolutions in front of you tonight. I won't go through all of them line by line again as I did at the first meeting, but ultimately this is the borrowing for $995,000. You'll see the estimated interest rates and terms and things like that in there. But ultimately, as I showed on the prior slide, no tax increase over the 26 debt service fund levy. There's a couple other ratios down there at the bottom again that you'll see set forth in the resolutions tonight. The first one's your max payments as a percentage of your net assessed value, which is 0.66%. And the direct and overlapping debt as a percentage of your net assessed value. That is all of the municipal entities, library, city, town, counties, and the school as a percentage of your net assessed value. So I know I went through that pretty quick. We walked through them line by line at the February meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
And I know we're not looking to sell till probably, June or July, but like what are interest rates sitting at right now?
Well, 10 days ago, they were a little bit different. It's caused a little volatility with everything going on overseas, but you're probably in the 4% range, probably even closer to 3.5%. Again, there's been a lot of volatility in the market last little bit. Everything that we ran was at 5%. So assuming it comes in less than that, it's going to look better than what that chart showed. But this is just the first step of hearing. That's why we have that conservative interest rate in there of 7% too.
So these are sort of worst case scenarios. We expect everything to be better.
Yeah. We can always come down from these numbers, but once they're set, we're stuck to them and cannot go above them. So we do try to be conservative early on, given the amount of time and steps that are involved in the legal process to issue debt.
Does anybody have any questions for Luke? Okay, I think we can.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing. Remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on the sheet which is located over there. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive if possible. May I have the sign-in sheet now, and I will begin calling the names of those who are interested in speaking.
Yeah, and actually, I think,
There's
does
nothing
anybody
over-
want to speak on
There's
the?
nothing over there, I don't think, is there? Yeah.
A couple people signed in, but
Yeah.
would anyone like to speak on this particular topic?
Okay. Would anyone like to speak? If so, state your name and address and sign the sheet after you're done speaking. Thank you for all who have participated in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the projects and the future of our community. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. Dr. Anderson, would you please summarize the project resolution?
Yeah, so the project resolution is required when the school is planning to spend more than $1 million, which we're talking a little under, to be clear, per building. It contains the estimated hard and soft construction costs and the cost of issuance, and establishes the total project costs. It also contains the estimated tax impact.
Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the project resolution?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Would you please summarize the preliminary determination resolution?
So the preliminary determination resolution is required when a school is planning to finance more than a certain amount for a given facility. It contains the total project cost, maximum annual payment and lease term, and other financial terms such as estimated principal amount and tax impact.
Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the preliminary determination
I'll
resolution?
make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Would you please summarize the preliminary bond resolution?
So the preliminary bond resolution contains the project cost for the project, maximum interest rate and other financial terms as the first interest payment date and maturity date of the bonds.
Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the preliminary bond resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Would you please summarize the reimbursement resolution?
So the next resolution is a reimbursement resolution relating to the financing of the construction project. This resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to closing on the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself.
Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the reimbursement resolution?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That you next.
I think that's it. I think we can
Yeah,
adjourn
that's
to the. Luke, is there anything else that you need to add?
Yep.
Good. Does anybody have any questions before we adjourn to the regular meeting?
Okay, we'll adjourn for our regular board meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. We will move on to Mr. Schopp.
Yep, so the Form 9 financial report, so what that is it takes all your expenditures and all your receipts that you've entered in from July 1st of 2025 to December 31st of 2025, and essentially just gives you a basic outline of everything that you spent and everything that you deposited in. Similar to the financial report that's also submitted on December 31st, so it's kind of the same information, just a different, this is the Department of Education, whereas the other one is the Department of Local Government Finance, so it's the same report for two different entities, but gives you the same information. So the education fund we ended up with $208,998.22. And the operations fund, we ended up with $453,889.17, and then our rainy day is sitting right at $1 million. So we've made a conscious effort to make sure that we increase those amounts in each fund, because when you do your budget the following year, your starting balance really indicates on how much your budget can handle, as opposed to setting it at zero and then hoping that you have money when it comes time to pay your bills. So the Form 9 is just another report that outlines all your expenditures and all your receipts, and gives you a basic outline of where your funds are at the end of the year, and then they take that and they allow you to use that to build your budget for the following year.
Questions, comments? Mr. Schopp? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda, including claims for 2/5/2026 and 2/20/2026. Transfer claims 71976 through 72051, 72002 through 72004, and a consent agenda. Questions or comments on the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0.
All right. Mrs. Allen, can I stop you there for
Yeah,
just a
did we
minute?
skip something?
No,
Did I miss something?
we just
Oh,
have
okay.
a couple people I'd love to
Oh,
introduce
sure.
real quick before
Sure.
we move on. And
Okay.
first we'll start with Mrs. Barnes. I'm very excited to introduce our new Director of Student Learning, Mrs. Courtney Barnes. So as you know, Mrs. Barnes has been a teacher here at South Central for, I think it was 13 years here, because it's 12 for me, and she came a year before me. She's taught English for us, and Mrs. Camrath is retiring, which I'm surprised not to see Mrs. Camrath tonight. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because she's always here supporting us. Oh, she's on the line. All right, hello, Mrs. Camrath. So after 40 years of honorable service, Mrs. Camrath is retiring as our Director of Instructional Technology. So as you know, we morphed that title a little bit just to reflect more of the duties of what that person is doing. And we had 4 wonderful internal applicants. We had a committee of 7 that vetted the applicants and interviewed, and really pleased to be able to introduce Mrs. Barnes as our new Director of Student Learning. I know that she's a fierce advocate for our students and our school, and expect great things from her. So, Mrs. Barnes, would you like to say anything?
Just thank you so much. I'm really excited.
Congratulations.
Yes, congrats.
Congratulations.
And then, Mr. Wilhelm, would you like to introduce somebody?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Mr. Forker, Steve Forker. Familiar face around here the last couple of years. We went through an interview process for our head coaching position after Coach Schultz stepped down last month. So went through the process. We had some great candidates come in, some local candidates and some faraway candidates. And Mr. Forker was the best of the bunch. We had a committee of 7 people, I believe, on the committee. And he was the unanimous selection as the #1 candidate by everybody on the committee, Mr. Lautenbach included on that committee. So, Mr. Steve Forker, anything to say, Mr. Forker?
Sure. Never one short for words. Again, obviously, thank you. I'm excited to have this opportunity to be a part of this community more in depth than which I already am. Again, I believe, right, in developing young men through football. I think it's important, right, that the effort and time, the dedication that they put into the program, that they see a return, and growth in themselves, and start to develop that character, that resilience, and develop leadership skills that will set them up for life, right? So again, we're excited to be a part of this community, a little bit more in depth than which we already are. My son's a student here in 8th grade. But again, excited, right? Was at the sectional games on Friday and Saturday, and just to see the outcrying support, for obviously for the basketball program. I think that just, is a true testament of the small community that is here at South Central and the support which they provide. Again, not the result we wanted on Saturday night, but, a valiant effort, and a great season by them. So obviously just take a moment to congratulate Coach Bush and their team. But again, just excited to be here and look forward to developing some great young men. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So by day, Mr. Forker is the chief of police in Michigan City, and by night, he'll be our head football coach now. So we're glad to have Mr. Forker. We have a couple transfers in the elementary school as well. I know, most of those individuals aren't present. Are you going to cover that in your principal's report? Okay, then we'll wait for Mr. Kimmel to cover that in his principal's report. And I think we're good to move on to donations.
Okay. Donations for the food service for the negative lunch balances, $750 from Modern Woodmen of America. They are matching the donation from the turkey trot. So we are thankful for that. I'll hear a motion to accept $750 from Modern Woodmen.
Make the motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Donations accepted. Principals report.
Okay. You want to start, Mr. Kimmel? And with the storm incoming tonight, I asked both principals to keep it moving, because I've got several things on my list too. So
Give us some iRead data there.
All right, no, we're not going I'll be. Good evening. 5th and 6th grade girls basketball wrapped up their season. It was supposed to be tonight, but that game got canceled at OD. So great season for both teams, 5th and 6th, including the 6th grade girls winning the PCC tournament. So there's a bright future for the girls basketball program. A few fun things coming up in the elementary. NHS is putting on an Easter egg hunt for the pre-K through 1st grade students at the end of March. The 6th grade career fair is March 30th and March 31st. So this is where the 6th graders pick a career, put on a presentation, and speak to the public that come through and set up in the cafeteria. We have an assembly coming to our gym on April 2nd. It's Jim Basketball Jones. He speaks about leadership and anti-bullying, so mixes basketball in there as well. So I think that'll be great for the kids.
We are hosting the Math Bowl. I think this is our third year hosting a regional Math Bowl at South Central. It's actually on the date of the next board meeting, but we will host schools from around the area, and we have 3 teams of our own at the elementary participating in the Math Bowl. The iRead window, so for our 2nd and 3rd graders, 2nd grade does take iRead, and so does 3rd grade. That window opened on March 2nd and it closes this Friday. The results are embargoed, but I can say that our 2nd grade has completed it, and they have some amazing results. They are blowing state average out of the water, and it's their highest scores that they've had. But I'll share more next month. And then 3rd grade is also doing very well. The 3rd graders who didn't pass in 2nd grade are taking it this year, and so far they're doing well. End of 3rd quarter, I had the wrong date on my principal report. The end of the 3rd quarter is actually this Friday, so I just wanted to give you an update on that. Report cards will then be sent out the following Friday, but we're 3/4 of the way through the school year after Friday.
Crazy.
And then finally, yes, I just wanted to share some changes to the staff that will be taking place next year. All of these are internal moves, and I think they're going to be really good for our students. And I also want to applaud our staff as far as people were very, very willing. We had conversations, Dr. Anderson and I had some with some of the staff, and then I had some with some of the others, and these staff members, change is hard sometimes, but all of these staff members really were willing to do what's best for our school. So Amy Morrison will be transferring from teaching 3rd grade to teaching STEAM, that science, technology, engineering, arts, and math position. So that'll be one of our specials in our specials rotation, and she will teach that for K through 6 students. Brianna Perez, who had been teaching Title I, is moving to 3rd grade as well. And Bri has done a great job in Title I. Now she's moving to 3rd grade because Andrea Spies is moving from our literacy coach position, which was the grant-funded position. She is moving back to Title I, which she had taught previously. Chris Walter is transferring from 3rd grade, and she will be taking on a position of a junior high/high school teacher and the elementary high ability coordinator. So she is our high ability coordinator right now, but she'll be doing some more in-depth groups and looking at data a little bit more, and working with teachers at the elementary to really even push the elementary high ability students even more than she's already doing. So I'm looking forward to that creation of that position. Ashley Medley will be transferring from teaching 2nd grade to teaching 3rd grade. So our 3rd grade team, just to put it all together, will be Ms. Forniseri, Mrs. Perez, and Mrs. Medley. So that 3rd grade team will look different from years past. And then Mrs. Intagliata, Jenna Intagliata, who had been teaching music, will move to 2nd grade. So a lot of transfers, and like I said, I think these moves are what's going to be best for students and best for the makeup of our staff. So looking forward to next year.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note too that as I've communicated with you, we've effectively eliminated a teaching position to reduce costs so that we can better position ourselves for negotiations time next year. But with Mrs. Camrath's retirement, and then shifting Mrs. Barnes, and then Mrs. Walter over, and then with Andrea's grant position ending and her going back to title teacher going back to a classroom, we've effectively eliminated a position there and been able to do so without really changing services. We have a couple different electives, like in the English department, that will look a little bit different, or course offerings, but no major changes. And we worked with Mrs. Barnes and Mrs. Randall and Mr. Mills, through that to make sure that we were still offering everything we wanted and needed to. So, any questions from Mr. Kimmel?
Just like a domino effect.
It was a domino effect.
It is. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Good evening, everyone. So March is a busy time as well as any time of the year, but it feels like March has a lot going on here at South Central on the high school side. We have a band concert coming up on Thursday. at 7 p.m. for the junior high and high school band. So if you guys want to catch some good tunes, come on out. It's usually a shorter version of our band concerts, about 30 minutes or so. We also have our second annual career fair coming up next week on the 17th. It's going to be in the Student Activity Center. We did that last year. Mrs. Barnes was an integral part of that team last year with helping with planning that. We just kind of kept building that onto this year. So we'll have roughly about the same amount of local businesses and different employment opportunities for students to learn about from our 8th grade all the way through. Our seniors are going to be able to pop in and catch a few different things that they would like to maybe learn for or explore for their futures for careers, as well as we have some colleges and local military entities that will be there as well. On that same day, we have our NHS inductions here at about 5 p.m. I believe that on that evening. So that 17th on St. Patrick's Day is a really busy day. Then following up onto next weekend, we have our spring play, which is called The Play That Goes Wrong. So mark your calendar for that. We have a Friday and Saturday night at 7 p.m. and Sunday matinee on the 22nd at 2. That is a play that's supposed to look like it's going wrong all over the place, apparently, is what they tell me. So I'm kind of interested to see what that looks like. There's supposed to be bad acting all the way through on purpose. So I don't know what that really looks like, but I'm kind of interested. Our robotics season is just coming to an end. They will be having a little celebration on the 24th at 3 p.m. So if you want to pop in and maybe have a round with the robots. I know Mrs. Rogowski has been doing robotics, so if you want to take a robot for a spin, go for it. They'll be there after school at 3. And then also we have donkey basketball on the 24th at 7 p.m. I don't know if anyone wants to sign up to be a rider and a shooter on the court, but I didn't know what donkey basketball was when I first started here until I saw it, and it's hard to explain until you've been there. So if you've never had a chance to do that, go for it and check it out. As Mr. Kimball said, we have the NHS partnership with our preschoolers and up to first grade on the 27th. Our students love partaking with that. And we have a morning session and an afternoon session, so we can be able to get both sets of preschoolers through with them. The kids really love partaking with that. And then one other thing kind of new for the month, we have our second year of our staff and student dodgeball tournament. So that's one of our prom fundraisers that's coming up. That'll be on the 27th at 5:30, so about a week before our spring break. They're just trying to raise a few more funds for our prom that will be coming up here in a little over a month. I'm going to skip down a little bit to athletics and then circle back, because I know we have Mrs. Rogowski on the agenda to give some information a little bit. So athletics, we're just kind of taking finishing up our winter season here right now and getting ready to jump right into spring, because it just comes right at us one after another. And so for the first thing I want to talk about is boys basketball. They finished off a real strong campaign this past weekend at sectionals. It wasn't the outcome that we wanted, but they had a heck of a season, being 21-6, and I think that ties the school record for most wins in the season. So congratulations to Coach Bush and all the young men that have been part of that team here this year, as well as over the course of the last few years. So the future is very bright of what we've seen that program evolve into. Our 7th and 8th grade girls are finishing up this week. 8th grade just finished up yesterday, unfortunately. It was a really high scoring game for an 8th grade basketball team. It was in low 50s, upper 40s. It was, I think, 54-46 was the 8th grade team's loss. So it's almost like high school basketball girls scores on that game. So unfortunately, they had a good season that just kind of came to an end. Our 7th grade, though, is still in the thick of it. They're going to be now playing tomorrow. So as a dad of a 7th grader, I'm happy that I didn't have to miss a game. I can go now tomorrow and be here tonight for the board meeting as well. But that'll be at Hebron against Morgan Township tomorrow at 5 p.m. and hopefully they win and go to the championship on Thursday. Congratulations to our junior high boys volleyball team. They were PCC tournament champs this year. as well as just kind of a couple things that are just starting off the thick of things. Our boys volleyball season will have their home opener on the 23rd of March. JV, our varsity boys baseball will have their home opener on the 28th. Softball will be on the 26th, and we already are in the thick of our second week of indoor track and field for the high school. They're going to have their second indoor track meet this weekend at Portage. So that's just kind of, oh, never mind.
They're not gonna go to that.
They're not going to go to that, according to Coach Wilhelm.
They decided that after this past weekend, they're not ready for that kind of competition.
Okay.
Because they're running against some of the biggest and best schools in the area.
So
They're like, okay, maybe we got our feet wet, let's take a step back and reevaluate the process.
All right, well, I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay, you're okay. And then once again, congratulations to our new football coach, Coach Forker, for being approved this evening. And we're excited to see what he will bring to the program this upcoming fall. And circling back to our curriculum, we just did our SAT Part 2 today, because we were trying to do it last week, but obviously the state had some connectivity issues, and for once, everything was finished on time. There was no connectivity issues on that end, so I was really happy to see that, you know, the testing went really smooth for our juniors here today. And just to kind of put this out here, I know we'll transition this to Mrs. Rogowski here shortly, but we are just at the exploratory phase right now of looking at what virtual school options look like. There's lots of schools around us that are, you know, already doing that, so might as well kind of get some information already kind of at hand so we can see, you know, what our steps would be, we need to be if we do ever venture any further into that realm. But that is all my report for the month. I know it's a lot, but spring's busy.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mills?
Did you let Coach Forker know that the high school football coach has always participated in donkey basketball?
I think that was a prerequisite.
I just want to throw that out. I didn't know if
see
they
him there, so.
see that contract or what.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills.
All right, thank you.
And also, if anybody needs to go, feel free. You don't need to stick around the whole meeting. You're welcome, but if you need to go, he won't offend us. So, yeah, next on the administrative report is virtual school. Just wanted to have a discussion about that this evening. Our wonderful Kate Rogowski is here with us this evening, and you know, we've been having conversations for a couple of years just about potential virtual school here at South Central. You know, while it's not necessarily something we want to jump into right now, it is a trend. And, you know, we're losing a handful of our own students to virtual schools in the area and around the state. So Mrs. Rogowski and Mrs. Cawley attended a training last week on virtual schools, and Mrs. Rogowski is going to provide an overview of the process should we want to consider one. So not sure it's the right time just yet, but I think our time is coming, and it's, you know, one of those things that everyone's kind of doing that we might need to consider ourselves. So I'll pull up Mrs. Rogowski's presentation and turn that over to her. So thank you, Mrs. Rogowski, for joining us tonight.
Hi guys, thanks so much for being here tonight. Basically, Dr. Anderson pretty much said it best. We've been talking about this for years, ever since COVID hit, and you know, he's always come up to me, Kate, what do you think? You know, should it be this year? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. A lot of the teachers are very concerned about, you know, the rigor of the material that would be online, the costs that might come with that rigor, and then also losing a mass amount of students to a virtual school. Very valid concerns, and you know, they really are. Unfortunately, like, virtual schools are just starting, is pretty much we're in our infancy phase on that, and I just see it unfortunately continue to grow. So SC has always been like on the cutting edge of technology, and we always have tried to be. So Dr. Anderson was like, hey, will you go check out this for me and see what's going on? So what I basically learned is there's 3 different options that people can do for a virtual school. So very first option is basically would be a remote virtual learner within the current school. So these students would be ones that might be the ones that, as they're like, oh, I'm going to virtual school next year. If we can capture those kids, or in a school year, say, hey, I'm gonna withdraw. If we can talk to those kids and say, hey, we have another option for you. You can come to South Central, you can do all your stuff at home. There's some more guidelines that we obviously have to figure out, because this is just fact-finding, basically. But we can do it pretty much with the current Edmentum program that we have. I would be able to put the same requirements onto those students that I do, that are physically in the lab with me. I would require like weekly meetings where they'd have to get on a Google Meet with me every single week. So there would be, like, they'd have to check in with me quite a bit. And I've even talked to Dr. Anderson about possibly, you know, maybe having them come in for like end of semester tests, you know, just to make sure that all of our current teachers are happy and okay with, you know, how we would go forward with that remote option. Next slide for me. So basically this option just shows that it's just, you know, you're completing most of the stuff at home, but you're still technically a student of South Central in the brick and mortar setting. What's really nice about this is we already have this current, we have a lot of this to implement right now. It'd just be a little bit of tweaking. The bad thing of this is any student who would be part of this remote/virtual learning would affect the graduation rate. So that's always been one of our biggest concerns on the high school side, is making sure that our graduation rate stays pretty high, because I think we all pride ourselves on that. So we've talked about maybe being selective about who we would allow to be in there and not, because they're going to affect that graduation rate. So basically it would be, we would have a committee or something like that, you know, where students would say, well, I'd like to go virtual, and then we'd have a process to go through and decide if that was actually what was best for the student. So like all the attendance requirements while they're virtual, you know, like when we have our virtual days, those are all still, you know, they have to be here, they have to take all the state testing, they have to do hearing and eye screening, all that good stuff. So they still have to do that, but they would just come here for those specific things. So like just testing, just, you know, screenings. So we have them outside of the building for 95% of the time. You can go to the next one. Second one is creating a virtual school, which I'm going to be honest with you, when I went down to this, I thought we were ready for this, and unfortunately we are not. This is a huge, huge thing that basically all the structure that goes into creating a school has to then be applied to a virtual school. So you have to have, like, you know, on our virtual days where we have to have 50-50 engagement, you know, where we have to be on live Google Meets, that's a requirement. Where we are currently, we cannot fulfill that requirement, so that would require getting Ed Options or Indiana Online. There's a lot of different like online vendors that we could use to meet that requirement. Because of like where my licensing is and everything, it works in the alternative school. Like we've done it for the non-traditional program. That's why like I can have 200 different classes in a virtual lab and it's still okay. But if we go to a virtual school, we have to have specific educators with specific licenses. So like, because it is 50% taught by a classroom teacher, I'm licensed in social studies, so I could not give out an English credit. So if we limit it to what we have currently at South Central, that significantly takes down the catalog. It would require current teachers, if we didn't use a vendor, to have to do live lessons, which pretty much is we figured is off the table. It's adding a lot more to all those teachers' plates. So basically it would have to be something through like, I would say Ed Options, because Edmentum is who we use currently for our virtual lab. So it's the same content, but they actually have teachers that they employ with their licenses that then will be able to allot the credits. Another big problem that comes with these virtual schools is we have to define our population. We have to decide like what kind of schedule are we going to do, a hybrid where there's somewhat in person or not. We have to have a virtual coordinator, we have to have a principal, we have to have a vice principal. Pretty much every single little entity in a school corporation we would have to have. So basically, like, we have the structure of that, obviously, since we're a school, but we don't have that all thought out for a virtual school. So I do think that this is a potential for the future for us, but it's going to, like, I've talked to Dr. Anderson, the weighing the costs of farming out or, you know, like hiring a vendor versus our own teachers. there's just a lot of questions and a lot of like more information that I think all of us need. I really think that we need to have like, you know, the teachers get together and see what the teachers think about all of this stuff too, because let's be honest, like education is just always better from a physical teacher, you know, and I'm a big virtual ed person, but it is always a better thing. So we have to kind of decide on that. Board approval has to happen for sure. We can go to the next one. All of the attendance rules are exactly the same, so then you have to define, well, what is considered in attendance, what is not. And I know you're probably thinking, well, look at Indiana Connections, or look at LaPorte, or Michigan City. They all have very, very, very different structures. So it would be, we would have to come up with our own South Central structure to do that. Students would still have to do all the testing, all the things that I detailed for the first option. They still have to do that as well. So they're very similar, but at the same time, it's a lot more involved for the actual virtual school. Go ahead, Dr. Houston. So basically, it's saying that this one's just talking about the 50 synchronous. What's really nice, and I have to 100% get clarity on this, the DOE has been very, very hard trying to find this information. But I believe if we would go with Ed Options and have a virtual school, we would get 100% funding. Whereas if we had a virtual remote learner, we would only receive 85% funding for that student. So those are things I still have to dig into, and luckily Mrs. Barnes actually made some contacts today with the DOE that is going to be huge, huge help to me. So I'll have those answers, you know, for you guys more, you know, in the future. And I think I'm good for the next one. Sorry, just seeing. So this is kind of the third option, is what we pretty much do now. So it's a blend of in-person learning and virtual learning. So sometimes the kids will go to AK Smith and then they come to the virtual lab for, you know, 2-3 hours. Sometimes they leave early based off of work. WBL program, they do that as well. So basically this is similar to what we're doing now, but instead of being 3 hours with me as a non-traditional student, it would be at home instead. So like they could go to AK Smith, but then work on their stuff at home. This is the stuff that I feel like we're real close. I mean, like I feel like we could definitely get this in next year. Even like option 1 is a potential as well. I have to find out the funding on that one, the 85%, but I believe these would be 85% models unless they went to the AK Smith or did WBL. Then I believe they'd be 100%. So if you're confused, yeah, how do you think I feel? It's crazy trying to juggle because you're trying to find out like all the definitions of what the DOE is saying, and one's virtual, one's remote. It's confusing. So when I came back from that meeting, the literal head exploding emoji was me and Mrs. Colley. Thankfully, she's awesome. She's a former special ed teacher. She would help me, like we have to do 504s and IEPs with all of these virtual students as well. So we could definitely utilize her in some, you know, increased capacities if we decided to go through with some of these things. And basically, it's just like I'm very rigorous in the way that I monitor my students, and I would just pretty much, you know, do that whether they were with me physically or not. So it's personally my recommendation that we would try this next year with like a few students. Dr. Anderson and I met today actually, and we were looking through some of the former students who have left to go to an online school. And that was the desirable ones, about 10 of them. So if we could recapture 10, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. Sorry. All right, so there's at least 10 people. I mean, so we
You're
could
online.
get, sorry.
You're online, Kate, so-
Sorry, I know, I realize that. Which is why I'm bright red, sorry. So if we could get 10 of those kiddos back, I mean, that's a lot of money, basically bottom line. So, I will open the floor to questions because I'm sure you guys have questions if you do, or you want to digest some of the things, and I can come back at some other point and bring more information for you guys. But the way we were kind of just talking about it is mainly looking at the students who may leave next year or have left to try to get them back into South Central. So that's the main goal. So it's all
how many
exploratory.
have left South Central now?
So when we looked at the transfer report, so, you know, 2 times a year, the Department of Ed puts out a transfer report and it tells us where our students are going. Like if they live in our boundaries and are going somewhere else, it tells us where they're going. And we counted approximately 15 of our very own students right now who are attending like Indiana Connections Academy or Hoosier Academy, you know, like just different various online schools. You know, we have a couple that are enrolled like in Clarksville and in Indianapolis. And when you see that, you know they're a virtual student. Clearly they don't, you know, live here and drive to Clarksville every day for school. They're doing their online program. So there certainly could be a couple more, you know, in the mix that, you know, we just don't know. Like if a student's attending LaPorte, they could be in LaPorte's online, or they might be in their, you know, their just right traditional school. Same with Tri-Township. Tri-Township has an online school. You know, a couple of those students could be ours enrolled in their online school, even though the majority of our kids that go there are traditional students. But so can't really give an exact number, but
Well, and that's like even if we would put the invite to come back out there, who's to say they would accept it either? So I mean, like we would probably have some that were like, no, I like where I'm at. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the weight of a South Central diploma weighs a little bit heavier than some of those other places, I'd like to think. So hopefully that we would get them back. My biggest hope is that when we hear, like, 'cause as teachers, we hear rumblings all the time about kids who are like, I'm gonna go virtual, I'm gonna go virtual. I'm hoping that once they go to the withdraw period, like, hey, I'm gonna withdraw, we can say, hey, no, let's hold on. What if we could offer you something else? And then keep those kids. Even if it was a little bit less funding, it's better than 0%, you know? So it's a lot to think about, and it's, you know, we still have to decide whether that's best for South Central, for sure, but I do think that this is a good way to maybe recapture some money and recapture some people.
Yeah, so this is a lot. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine when you were down
Oh my
there.
gosh.
This is like, but I
Oh my
just wanted
God,
to
just
know if I
thinking.
had this straight, because I might have missed something. So the second option was the one where you have to have a licensed
Yeah.
teacher? Just the second
Yes.
option?
The second option is the
Is the
only
one-
one that it would
Okay.
be required of that.
Okay.
That you would have to build your whole entire school.
It's like
The
you're
first
building
option's
another
very
school.
similar, but we would be keeping them, the state requires, I believe, is 30%. If you get to 30% of your enrollment, you then have to create a virtual school. You don't have to until you
Okay.
get to that number. And actually,
Okay.
like Michigan City has capped it at 100, so they never hit that number. But I do think they still haven't, they've created their own school as well.
Okay.
So it's weird.
The second option would almost be impossible, because how would you have a licensed English teacher, a licensed math teacher? You're not gonna find anybody with all those, so.
No,
it
and
would
you
be
can't
like,
have one
and you
person
can't
in charge of
pay.
it.
No.
So like when in Indiana Online is actually the people who put it on. They have licensed teachers, but they make their kids come into the like a building for like 3 hours a day, and then they have them go do other stuff online, but they physically make them come in. So that was Indiana Online, but a lot of places are going to Connections Academy. And luckily, with this new person, she actually used to work at Connections Academy, so I'm hoping to figure out how the heck they do it, whether they're actually having like a live instructor as part
That's
of
what I was
that
gonna
or not.
ask
There's
you.
just no, if you go to any of these websites, there's like next to no information online about these, because it's so new. It is so hard to find anything that is consistent and clear.
So you think the option 3 is where we're closest to then? You think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so, because then we basically can have it where Mrs. Polly and myself can monitor the kids. We keep it a small number, nothing too crazy for right now. I mean, with the option to potentially expand,
Like a
making sure that we're hitting all of the right things for the DOE. And again, luckily now I have an in on the DOE, so hopefully I can get some clear guidance on this, because unfortunately, there's just not a lot of clear guidance right now.
Sounds
It's confusing. It is really confusing.
I didn't know there was so much to it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
didn't
knew you
either.
had
I
to
thought
follow
I'd be able to
guidelines
come
and
in
everything,
here
but
and,
some
hey,
of
I do
these
virtual
are.
lab, I know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
been doing it for 20 years, and no. No, I need more and a lot
Yeah.
more things.
And
so.
I mean, I think there are schools who have just started them and said, like, yeah, come join our virtual school, and then they just kind of
They
figure
just wing it.
it. Yeah, just kind of
Okay.
figure it out.
But then you have to have a therapist. You have to, I mean, like,
It's
every,
also
you
the
have to have, like,
principal.
you
You had to hire a
yes.
Which-
principal, and it's
well,
like,
and-
You could
But
technically
we would
have,
just
If we
like,
do this
these
in
gentlemen,
moderation,
yes.
you know, we would
so we could have
use
all
our
dual
existing staff
roles,
to.
but
Yeah.
everybody would have a lot more work, you know, if we did it that way. But if we
Right.
went to something like Ed Options, they do all that work for us. Basically, I would be, like, if I was the person in charge of that, I would be crunching the data, making sure that the attendance things had been met, and making sure that we're reporting correctly to the state.
Okay.
Any other questions?
It's a lot.
It's so much, yes, and please feel free to email me if you guys have any questions that come up later. I mean, I will work my hardest to get your answers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and we want to take a cautious approach to it. We're not
Start small,
We're not
pilot program.
in a dire need for enrollment like many school districts are right now. There's a lot of districts that are hemorrhaging kids to other districts and to virtual schools. We're not, but we also, want to offer our students, every opportunity we can. And if that's the opportunity one of our kids needs, then we want to be the ones to offer it. So, we want to get there.
So what would be the difference of them enrolling in this, online school, or just enrolling in our lab for 6 hours a day?
Well, right now, at least, Mrs. Rogowski's program requires students be in person here physically in the building
You
for
have
3
to
hours.
be in
Mhm.
3 hours.
For
Okay.
3 clock hours.
Okay.
Whereas, we might try to develop a program where they don't typically come on site, except
some of
maybe
those-
for state testing,
Yeah.
end of semester check-in.
Because some of them
something
look like they had to come in for instruction even or something, so,
Yeah.
okay.
So that would be the
It's a big
difference, is
difference.
that,
Yeah.
they don't report here except for certain
Certain things,
things.
okay.
Say something just very quickly. One thing that would be really helpful with this is, for example, I have a young lady next year, so I'm still gonna run the work-based learning program as well. So I have a young lady right now, I was on the phone today, she currently works for Aviva out of Valparaiso, which is a nursing home. And so we were talking yesterday about what she would like to do in the future. So she said, actually, I'm kind of interested in continuing this. So I called Aviva. They do a tuition reimbursement for CNA program, contacted the CNA program. And they have several times that she could come take coursework, but I would really have to manipulate her schedule to make it function. Something like this option would be completely workable for that young lady
Okay.
who doesn't, she's met all of her requirements, but let's say I need her at an entire Tuesday and Thursday for her CNA classes. Typically, that would be a really big difficulty in our course load, but we could make that work if we had a.
The
slightly
flexibility
different
of it
option,
would work
And we've been
for
doing a
her.
great job with that so far, but there's just a few things where we'd love to have a kid who had a little bit more flexibility with their schedule, so.
Yeah, so we'll plan to, keep having conversations about it, try to inch forward toward it, and then hopefully maybe kind of pilot something next year where within Mrs. Rogowski's existing program, which has been established for 12 years now, and Mrs. Rogowski's been the teacher 11 of those 12, and she runs a tight ship. It's a good program. Sometimes those virtual schools, no offense, coach, sometimes they hire the football coach to come in and to do credit recovery,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're there to coach football, but they're running the credit recovery and or the virtual lab, and and it's not always as rigorous or done with fidelity like it should be, and Mrs. Rogowski's program is, and we want to keep it that way. But we might try to suggest piloting this next year with a few students who would be
Okay.
full virtual essentially. So we'll keep you posted.
Yep. Keep us posted.
Next is the out-of-district student transfer plan. So Indiana Code 20-26-11-32 says that the governing board will establish the number of transfer students the school corporation has the capability to accept in each grade level, and the date by which requests to transfer into the corporation must be received, and then publish the date on the school corporation's website and report it to the Department of Education. So it also states that districts must allow students to attend that have a parent who's an employee of the school corporation, which we do. And if the number of requests to transfer into the district exceed the capacity established, each timely request must be given equal chance. And we've had a few instances of this as well, where we do like a random lottery for spots in a certain grade level. So a student who has attended a school within our corporation the previous year and ended in good standing may continue to attend the school in subsequent years. So, we tell parents all the time, like, once you're a satellite, you're always a satellite, as long as you don't leave. If you leave and then come back, it'll depend on if there's room in that grade level. But once you're in, you're in. So like even this year's 5th grade, for example, it's at 84 students. It's kind of ballooned up because we accepted some transfers. Then we had some students move into the district in that grade level, and it just naturally ends up increasing itself. And, so if a student in 5th grade would leave, and they're out of district, there's no guarantee they get back in. However, if they finish the year, they're in good standing, then once they're ours, they're always ours. So good standing in this instance means they not have a violation that would deny their attendance. And denials of attendance are a student may be denied for 10 or more days of suspension. A student may be denied for suspension causing physical injury, drug or alcohol violations, and weapons. And a student may be denied for excessive absences. And we have a handful each year that we have to look at for these things. Typically the excessive absences, not the other things. But the parent requesting the transfer is responsible for providing records or necessary information to be determined if they're eligible for transfer. And typically all public schools have like a reciprocity agreement where it's not an issue. We reach out to the school, we get that information, and schools do that to us as well. So that's not usually an issue. So the proposed important dates would be, today is our school board meeting to review this information. I would propose upon your approval that tomorrow we open the application for new out-of-district transfers for the 26-27 academic year. We like to do an initial application window, and we would propose that April 12th would be the deadline for that initial window, so that anybody in that initial window gets priority for spots that are available. We'd like to notify those students by May 8th, so those out-of-district transfers that are received by April 12th would receive notification by May 8th. That way parents know before the end of the school year and can make their decision knowing if they submit in a timely manner that I have a spot for my child. So they can end the school year knowing I'm going to South Central next year. Additional out-of-district students may be accepted through September 30th if openings are available in the requested grade level. Applications after September 30th would be recommended to start second semester, which would be January 5th of 2027. So October 1 is count day. Plus by then you're talking 7 weeks into school, and if a child moves into the district and can't really help moving schools, then of course we take that child. But if they're transferring for other reasons, usually by the time you get 6-7 weeks in school anyway, we're way past in wanting to do transfers for that reason. So, creating numbers for our desired class size recommendations is, something that we've shifted a little bit over the years. The recommended numbers, which I've discussed with the CTA, our teachers union, would be 72 for grades K and 1, 75 for grades 2 and 3, 78 for grades 4 through 6, 82 for grades 7 and 8, and then 85 for grades 9 through 12. So a couple of these would be, a couple students higher than where the previous cutoffs have been, but a lot of the upper grade levels are, near these numbers anyway, so it would not be significant impact numbers-wise. And so if we filled every grade level at the exact numbers that are proposed here, the maximum possible number of students we could have would be 1,032. So we've looked at all of our current numbers and sections across the district, and if we move forward the students in their current grade levels to their next grade levels, then this is what it would look like. For kindergarten, we always estimate right about 60. You know, this past year, we're only at 53 right now. But 2 years ago, I think we were in the higher 60s, you know, maybe 66, 68, something like that. So it does fluctuate, but we estimate about 60, and that 60 includes the out-of-district students. But grade 1, so this year's kindergartners, next year's first graders, we have 53. Next year's second graders, we currently have 71. Next year's third graders, 59. Next year's fourth graders, 75. Next year's fifth graders, 70. And then next year's sixth grade at 84, which is our biggest group in the elementary school. So, and then biggest group total next year. So that shows how many openings then for each grade level. And then for the junior, senior high school, next year's 7th grade is sitting at 73 right now, 8th grade at 79, 9th grade at 75, 10th grade at 81, 11th grade at 82, and then next year's senior class will be a small group at 62. There are several early grads this year as juniors. That's part of the reason why that number's so low for seniors next year. Yeah, so those would be the proposed numbers. Any questions on that before I review dates or any concerns on that?
Different criteria for the 12th graders? Because typically we don't
Well,
take a lot of 12th graders coming in, right?
Yeah, you're right. Typically we don't, because often seniors that, you know, are looking to move usually have some sort of reason, like a credit deficiency, an attendance problem, something like that. But not always, you know, like my nephew, for example,
Right.
moved in this year as a senior. We had a senior from Westville move in. That's a wonderful young lady.
You just look at each individual case then.
Yeah, and then if there's a reason to deny, then we usually have the capability if they give us one of those denial reasons. And typically exchange students often fall in the senior category. You know, last couple of years, Mr. Mills and I have, and Mrs. Randall, you know, we've worked through that where, you know, sometimes we have exchange students who are 15 years old or maybe 16 years old. And yeah, they usually want to be a senior so that they can experience all those senior things. But we have tried to direct exchange students more into the grade level where they would belong, not necessarily just make everyone a senior. So I did tell Mr. Mills with such a low number that maybe next year we can let them all be seniors. But, you know, numbers wise, like this year we're graduating 91 seniors. I think the biggest senior group on record for South Central. So there are a handful of those are exchange students. And then it's been a big group that's moved through, plus some early grads that are juniors. So it's a big number. And you know, and when we graduate, when we have 91 diplomas, and if we only bring in 53 kindergartners, like we've got a big gap to fill immediately. And so that's part of the reason why I had proposed to the CTA that we consider, you know, bumping those numbers up just a tad bit to make sure that we have capability to like close that gap. Otherwise, you know, we could see a 40 student difference in our ADM just like that. And thankfully, we're in a position where we have open enrollment students that, you know, continue to fill those numbers. And, you know, we're sitting at 46.1% open enrollment last I looked. You know, we'd be in a world of hurt like many districts are if we didn't have open enrollment.
We usually fill most of the grade levels, don't we, except for maybe a couple?
Yeah, there's usually a couple that don't or are close, but yeah, thankfully we, you know, have a great school here and a good reputation, and students want to find their way here a lot of times. So we're fortunate that we have that capability, because a lot of districts would be facing the issue of that 40 student drop and there'd be no remedy to it. So, Jerry, did you have a question?
Yes, the application process, is that done online?
Yeah, we moved
or-
it to online last year. So it's a Google form now. It really helped us streamline things last year. It went really well. We've added a couple more categories to the application this year on a lesson learned type thing, and email addresses for parents and just some more identifying information. But yeah, so this will be year 2 that we've moved it online via Google Form, and it's been very helpful
Good.
to have that. So just reviewing, that summary of those dates, when you add up all the openings, like it looks like a lot, a lot more than but it adds up to 101 potential openings. So March 11th through April 12th would be that initial window to accept out-of-district students. New out-of-district families will be notified by May 8th if they submit in that initial window. We'll continue to accept applications beyond April 13th through September 30th if space is available. And then the out-of-district numbers will be, accepted, and then Derek updates those on the website so that, they're not necessarily real time, but we try to update them every so often so that most accurate information is available for families. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer those. And if not, this is fairly status quo for, what we've been doing.
It's worked for us. Yeah. It's worked. Okay, your motion to accept the new transfer, or this transfer policy.
I'll make that motion.
Here, a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Okay, very good. Next are a couple personnel updates, which we've essentially covered most of that, but in the packet, and I sent via email ahead of time, was a proposed update on a couple administrative staff, some recommended salary and benefit information for those. So like Mrs. Barnes' recommended information was included in that. And then also with Mrs. Camerath retiring and essentially reorganizing the technology department, proposed that we change Derek's title from Director of Network Technology to just Director of Technology. So Mr. Budko would then just essentially oversee the entire technology department. They work, Mrs. Camerath and Mr. Budko work very well together, but they do two very different functions. So I think that was part of the reason we wanted to change the title and went with Director of Student Learning for Mrs. Barnes, just to better reflect those. And then the other was Mr. Schoaf is earning his master's degree, and I recommended that, like we do in the collective bargaining agreement for our teachers, Mr. Schoaf's a certified staff member and a valued member of our administrative team, and so I wanted to recommend that we move that in line with like we would for our teachers and other certified staff. So nothing too crazy there, but I wanted to put that as its own item so that way it was clear. That way if auditors ever ask or there's any questions on that, we have a clear approval for that. So happy to answer questions, but if not, it would be for those 3 staff members on the information sheet that I gave you.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to update these personnel recommendations?
I'll make the motions.
Second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Thank you. And then the last one on my list here is football field lighting. And as I've discussed with the board, our football field lighting has been a concern for a while now. The last time we had a few bulbs changed out, Brian Glisick, who works for KV Electric and has been an assistant football coach and a community member for a long time, let us know that parts for those particular lights we have are no longer available. So I'm told that the lights we have were essentially obsolete when they were installed back in 08-09, which is why those bulbs, ballasts, and parts are no longer available. So Mr. Hager and I have been working on this for a while now. We met with 3 different sports lighting companies and received quotes from each of them. That was Techline Sports Lighting, Energy Harness, and Musco Sports Lighting. And so, through conversation with the board, The recommendation is for Musco sports lighting, so they'll use the existing poles will stay there. That's the big thing. So, you know, when people talk about like, yeah, can we get lighting on our baseball field or our softball field? It's very expensive, and a big part of that is, you know, the poles and setting the poles. And, you know, this is not cheap either. We're talking $129,000, you know, and it's money we don't want to spend right now, but it is for, you know, upgrading, and we need to keep that facility and those lights, you know, up to standard, just like we do everything else in this building. Plus, you know, if we show up for a Friday night football game and can't turn the lights on, no, it'll not go over very well.
You don't have Friday night lights or no lights.
Yeah. So this will be changing the existing like halogen bulbs to all LED. So there'll be far fewer lights on each fixture. And Jake, I don't know if you want to talk about it. You'd know more than I would about it, but.
Well, I mean, I looked at it, but I went through our electrical consultant, and I mean, out of the gate at first, he's like, you know, you should be looking into Musco. We didn't have a bid at that time, and we didn't feel like their outline of our field was accurate, I guess. And Musco's was very detailed into what we had. They had less lighting. I think it had to do with there's just a lot, and Musco is, I mean. If you get Musco, that's the one you want. They are the professional in sports lighting. I mean, that's everything we've looked into. So I passed it off and really took the recommendation. And the guy that I did, they've done everything from softball fields to pickleball courts to everything all over the area. And that was his main recommendation. So that was how I made mine. I'm going to value that. So it was great that their price was different compared to. The question I didn't know is I remember we had like a $200,000 one, but did that include, was that getting new poles and all that? Was that why it was so high back then?
That I don't know, because that was before I was superintendent, but I don't think it would include poles either, because when we got a quote for like baseball and softball, it was like $650,000, $700,000 to do both, baseball being like $400 to $450 of that, and then softball being $200 to $250 of that. So yeah, I don't know, but I would imagine, you know, square footage wise or acreage wise, you know, the football field's going to be bigger than baseball or thereabouts. So I can't imagine that 200 included.
That was just something I didn't see the original one, but that's Musco is it's the one. If you have that choice and are able to afford them, and he even told me, he said, Jake, if it was up to me and they were $10,000-$15,000 higher, I'd still go with them. So that was where I got that.
Yeah, and the main difference now I think about from 5 years ago or whatever that was to now is, you know, they've gotten better at making LEDs, and the wattage or kilowatts, whatever it is, you know, we're talking like 1,500 watt fixtures now versus, you know, maybe 500 watt fixtures. So that's why it requires a less number of lights. And so we'll have 6 lights on each pole now instead of, you know, there's 10 or 12 on each pole right now. It'll go down to 6. Musco's package also includes the uplighting. So that's one of their features is like a ball tracking sports lighting. So if we're airing it out, we can see the ball.
And they also included the app and technology, right?
Yes, so we'll get 10-year warranty.
Yeah,
and then
more of a warranty.
10 years lighting controls. So we'll be able to turn the football field lights on and off on our phone.
So they ended up throwing that in.
Make them flash when we score a touchdown.
Well, that costs a lot of money. That's fine. So, okay, well, you know.
That wasn't,
Yeah.
that wasn't included in the,
Eric needs you to hack the system to make that happen.
Off and on, off and on.
wasn't that like a $15,000 addition or
I
something
think it
like
was
that?
even more than that.
More than
The
that?
controls on one of them was $15,000.
So they threw
initially.
that in then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you
That's what
can
we
dim
told
it,
her.
there's like 3 levels,
Yeah.
so, yeah, like Derek was saying, we could, you know, we can go low, medium, high, and dim it and do our own,
Yeah.
Show.
show, but,
And they also didn't charge us any extra, was included in the equipment as well, so it was a pretty high number, I thought, for rental of equipment, even for a whole week, you know? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot that went into it, you know, so.
yeah, and this would be paid with bond proceeds, so we have some funds left still from our previous building project that we had a period of 3 years to spend. So Musco was agreeable to split the payment in half, so we'd pay half in this June, and then they'd give us a year to pay the other half. So we'll use bond proceeds to not operational dollars to pay for that. So, and again, this is truly is more of a need than a want at this point. And
Timeline?
yeah, so they're quick on the timeline. Like we were looking maybe right after graduation to ask them to start, and they told us they could do it before that if we want. So, so we'll see. We'll work that out exactly. But worst case, before the end of June, they'll be done.
It's only a week or 2, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a lot.
Yep.
Was that or move football to Saturday mornings?
Would be Friday night lights.
We just
anymore.
move graduation to August.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so if the board's agreeable, I'd appreciate it.
Questions, comments, questions? We hear a motion to upgrade the lighting on the football field.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
One second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Maybe we do want it before graduation. Try it out.
Yeah,
I'm willing.
Good.
As long as they guarantee it's gonna be done.
Well, that's-
on
Yeah,
everything
you don't
else.
want it half.
Yeah.
No,
If
you
they
don't
do it,
wanna
I want to
make
do it
that
end of
mess.
April.
Yeah.
That way we got a whole
Just put a
month of May
clause
as a
in that
buffer.
before we
Right.
sign
Yeah.
that it will be done and operational, or they supply all the
All
trailer lighting and.
Yeah.
On graduation? Are the lights on at graduation?
Yeah.
They are?
Yeah.
Towards the end it comes?
Yeah, we just put the
Yes,
west
okay.
half
Yeah.
on. So,
Okay.
that concludes my administrative report.
Okay, anything else? Anybody have anything else they want to discuss, talk about?
Just to verify, is it next year we move to 2A again?
Yeah.
And just certain sports or all across the board?
All 5 of the 4 class sports that we participate in. So volleyball, boys and girls basketball, baseball, softball will all move to class 2A next year.
Okay.
So,
I thought I saw that, I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
moving next year
yeah,
in the
yeah,
fall.
that came out, was that
March 2nd is when the email came out from them.
about a week ago
And so I just saw something
that
on
came
it.
out?
Yeah, I asked to be reevaluated how they do the process. They told me thanks, but no. I asked, because I said, I made a recommendation to the commissioner saying, there's no reason we count the senior class going forward as part of our grade level. We should be counting 8th grade through
Right, 11.
11
Yeah.
in the corporation instead of 9 to 12, especially at the lower levels. It matters when we have 94 kids in a class or whatever it is.
And just let them know that.
And they're like, no, we're good, thanks.
And also, if you just separate the private and public schools, and it would be a no-brainer, and it'd be very simple. That would, I mean,
That's literally what the commissioner said to someone when they brought it up at a meeting. Not this current commissioner. That's what it said.
I just said that.
Yeah, we've been down that road. They don't.
Not interested, I
They
don't
don't care.
know.
No. Alabama did it. That was the latest one, I think.
Well, and Illinois has the multiplier,
Yeah.
and that's what the Porter County Conference had proposed. That was probably back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
Proposed the multiplier, essentially to move each of the private schools up a class. It was not received very well.
That's why Century 21 is, they've kind of, well, that's a success factor they chose. Because I don't know, what are they now, 3?
If they win state, they'll go to 380.
Yeah.
They're only 2?
At the moment, they're in Boone Grove sectional.
They took out Crown Point.
Yeah, the only lost Crown
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah, it was, yeah, so it's, yeah. It is what it is, sorry. I just wanted to ask.
Anything else?
Sometimes going to 2A, you get away from the private schools.
Yeah.
So then,
Your motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Meeting is adjourned.
All right.